Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 5 of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. It has been 4 weeks since we last reacted to this, basically a month. And I've explained kind of why in other videos, notably Link Click, but let me explain why here. So originally we were doing both Link Click and Jujutsu Kaisen on the same day, both on Friday, because it just works with their release schedules. Both of them releasing basically the same day. It just made sense. But Jujutsu Kaisen went on hiatus after the first arc. And because the original Japanese went on hiatus, the dub, even though it was released 2 weeks after, also had to end up going on hiatus after the same episode aired, which is this episode, episode 5. This is the final episode of the first arc of season 2. The rest of this season is going to be the next arc. Apparently, it's a big one, I guess. But the point is, the Japanese one went on hiatus for, I want to say, a month. And because of that, the dub had to, and so I've been pushing it back on not finishing this arc, not finishing this episode, until I could get back to more afterwards. Well, just this past weekend, we had the start of the new arc in the dub. It's been going on for a couple weeks now or so for the sub, but the dub just released the first episode, and so we can begin again. It's really as simple as that. I just wanted to wait until we could continue. I could have probably reacted to this episode and just waited after that, because I would have had to, but I just felt like I wanted to go from the last episode of this arc right into the next episode. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It's just how I wanted to do it. So, we are back, though. We are back with Jujutsu Kaisen reactions. But, like with everything on the channel right now, it's just going to be like a when I get to it situation. As of this point, I'm probably not going to restrict them to Fridays anymore. I might stop restricting Link Click to Fridays and stuff. And we're probably not going to catch up completely, so that way we can do them at any time during the week. But it's only going to be like a when I feel like it situation still, like when I'm up for reacting to this series. And I'm going to say right off the bat here, I really hope that this next arc is good. Because this opening arc, honestly, outside of just connecting us to the one character and then ripping her away, I have not really enjoyed this arc. I know, like, we only reacted to 4 episodes, and this is the 5th. It's very short. But this entire Gojo's past arc, or whatever you want to call it, honestly, is just kind of boring. Which is really weird to say because it's Gojo. Like, I love Gojo. But this arc, it's like, I didn't really have any desire to know about his past. I almost feel like it takes something away from him. Like, kind of like the mystery and the intrigue of his character was kind of part of his appeal to me. Having his past, like, explain a lot of, like, why he's where he is now, and showing how his mindsets and ideals changed kind of like on a 180. It's like, I didn't need that. I didn't want that. And getting it hasn't really done anything positive for me. It's not like wholly negative. It's not like it's a terrible thing. But it just feels so unnecessary that it kind of just... I was kind of disinterested. Like, Fushigoro's dad being in this, and everything was like, just like, okay, he just existed here. Sure. It's like he didn't even have that big of an impact on me. Seeing Gojo's past with wow, his name is escaping me. I can't think of his name right now. You know who I'm talking about. Seeing their past though, him and the bad guy, didn't really do much for me. And like that's really all this was. Their past to explain why they are in the positions they're now in. And it's just like, I didn't care. I didn't need to know this. At least not to this kind of degree. It's like a single episode explaining it would have been honestly better. I know a lot of people would be like, oh, but you should want show, don't tell and everything. It's like, I honestly, with something like this, I would have rather it just be told to me. I would have rather had Gojo just exposit this, rather than have 5 episodes dedicated to showing us something that just feels like unnecessary over showing, for lack of a better term. And this is something I fully realized during this break between episodes, during this month where I haven't been reacting to this series. It's something I very much come to think about during this time. Because I don't think I was really thinking about a lot of this prior when I was reacting to the first 4. But yeah, it's like, while the content isn't bad, in fact, in a lot of ways it's good. The action is good, the animation is good. It's just like, I didn't care. Especially since it like just kind of comes out of nowhere with no real explanation or anything. It's just like, oh, suddenly we're in a Gojo backstory arc. It's like, if this was from the perspective of like, and it started with Gojo telling this to his students, that would be a little more forgiving. That would be like, okay, so he's actually telling them this. But no, it just comes out of nowhere. It's just like, oh, you were watching this, you were invested in Yuji and Nobara and Fushigoro's shenanigans and everything going on there. Well, too bad. We're going to just thrust you into something out of nowhere just to set some stuff up for the future. Because that's all this arc was, a setup arc. It's setting up for the future, especially for a confrontation between these 2 former friends. That's all it's for. So it feels needless. It feels overly long, and it feels completely like a waste of time for me. And I might be in the minority on that. But it's like, again, even if they just had Gojo, like a single scene of Gojo telling these students this, that would have helped a lot, but the fact that they don't, it just feels out of place as well. It's like, again, I don't really care to know his backstory and everything. I just want to get to more of the current stuff going on with the characters that have really been focused on getting me to love. Yuji, Nobara, Fushiguro. It's like, I want more with them. I don't want this Gojo backstory. But again, maybe that's just me. It's just, again, it's not bad. The actual episodes and the content weren't bad. I just didn't feel like I needed or wanted them in this long scope of things. And I don't feel like the episodes gave us enough to warrant it, especially coming out of nowhere. But maybe it'll work better once we see the payoff of whatever it's setting up. Which, again, is just going to be the confrontation between these 2. Once that payoff happens, maybe it'll work better. But in the meantime, if I remember right, last we left off, girl is dead. Um, we have killed Daddy Fushiguro. Gojo has kind of unlocked his potential. And now they're just kind of like dealing with the fact that their mission was a failure and their plans to actually, protect and save this girl from the mission was also a failure because of Daddy Fushiguro fucking things up and shooting her in the head. Which, again, still a really fucked up moment. Still really shocking moment. Like, that's undeniable. So this is the last episode of the arc. I assume it's just going to, finally just close out the explanation of why these two changed completely around in terms of their personalities and ideals and whatnot. Basically became each other, with them taking on more of each other's kind of thoughts and everything on morality. I don't know if the episode's going to feature literally anything else than that, but we'll see. We'll see. But that means that the next episode will have the new opening, and we'll get back to the actual main story that I'm invested in. So, that's good. So sorry for these long pre-thoughts. I wanted to get this out. I wanted to, kind of vent about all of that. Because, again, it's kind of been building up for the past 4 weeks. Just over the fact that I've been thinking about it over and over. But, yeah. Excuse me. I'm nonetheless excited to to continue this and see where this goes. So, let's get this going. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, first off, the chair that Gojo was sleeping in the current day and everything, I think is the chair at the very beginning of the opening. So fun little parallel there. But we have now seen everything that has kind of led to Suguru's downfall, why he chose the path he's on, even the noble intent he does kind of have, but the twisting of it turning it evil and everything. Because his intent, his goal is to rid the world of cursed spirits. And because Yuki told him that one of the ways, or that the only real way to completely do so is to make it so that everyone is a Jujutsu sorcerer, his entire idea is like, oh, well then we just have to kill all humans. And she's like, yes, that would work, but, I'm not crazy like that. And he's like, well, I'm crazy. I could do that. And let's talk about Yuki for a moment. Yuki comes in, she's this really well-designed muscle babe. And she's a special grade sorcerer working outside of the confines of the main Jujutsu organization. It's unclear if she's around the same age as Gojo and Suguru, or if she's a little older. She looks, and I feel like all the context makes me believe she's, a little older than them. I'd say probably early 20s, I would say, based on what we saw here and heard. But I don't know for sure. I could probably check actually. Here, let me just use my phone. It'll probably be quicker than trying to bring it up on the browser. Yuki, JJK, Yuki. I'm gonna not look up spoilery stuff. Yuki Tsukumo. Yuki Tsukumo age. Okay, so that the events of that were 10 years in the past, right? Or about 11 years. It said 2007, and it's currently 2018 in the current day of the series. So yeah, according to this, she's around 36 years old, which means she would have been 26 at that time. She seems to be notably older than Gojo and Geto. She's not aligned with Jujutsu High, yeah. Okay, so yeah, she is older. Okay, I figured as such. She again, she looks older. She sounds older. Like comparing her to like others around Gojo and Gato's age, such as Shoko, it's like yeah, she definitely appears to be older. So we see her just kind of come in. We find out she's a special grade, which is very rare from what we know, right? Like, there's like almost no special grade sorcerers. I know, oh my god, what is his name? From Jujutsu Kaisen Zero. Wow, I am completely blanking on his name. Hold on, that's gonna bother me. It's been a while since I watched this, so I'm like forgetting names and stuff. Main character. Yuta Okotsu. So Yuta's a special grade, and we know that. I believe Gojo is a special grade. So I think we just know 3 special grades, right? It's just those 3 that we know of. I'm sure there's more, but I think it's just those 3. I don't want to look that up because there might be names in there that I don't know or updates to things or whatnot, something like that for in the manga past where it is currently in the anime. So, but yeah, so she's a special grade. Apparently, doesn't take on jobs because of her refusal to align with Jujutsu Tech and everything. She doesn't agree with their philosophies and ideals, and the fact that they, as she puts it, deals with problems by not attacking the cause but the symptoms instead, which is a really interesting way to look at it. And it's very clear that she and Geto have similar ideals. Like they both want to rid the world of cursed spirits. Like that is their goal. But it's very clear that she is, she has more morality to her and doesn't believe in, doing evil in order to achieve that goal. Now, she doesn't believe in the way Jujutsu Tech is handling it either. So she's kind of like, I guess you could call her a wild card right now. But she's definitely going to be appearing in the future. Like, she's been set up pretty well. I wonder, though, like, she was asking about, like, their types and everything, and it's like, do you have some connection to our best friendo at all? Because it's like, that's what he always asks. I wonder if, like, maybe she trained him or something. I don't think we've seen anything with them together before. I don't think we've seen her at all before. I think, like, she's a new character introduced here. I don't know. I just, that's the only thing I can think of, because her name isn't the same as his. So I don't think they're related at all. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll explain it. But she's definitely going to come back in. She seems cool though. She seems really interesting. I love her design, honestly. Like, you guys know I love buff women, and she is like notably buff. Like, not like super like heavily muscled, like to kind of like a silly degree or anything. Like, she's not like a JoJo character level of muscled or anything. Her muscle definition is more, I guess, akin to someone like Korra from Legend of Korra, where it's like more just standardly buff. Like, it's very clear that she is like buff, but she's not like yoked out of her mind or anything. It's more realistic. It's more just a general sense of like muscular, and but it's noticeable. It's very noticeable that she is. Also, her outfit is just like, that is a nice fit. It just works for her. Like, everything about her design just works. It's just a good design. We also see baby Megumi in this episode, like first grade, like what, 6 years old, and we see that he's very smart for his age, and that he is just consistently thinking about the well-being of his sister, which is very clear that he still does, even with her in the state she's in. And I kind of love the moment where where Gojo asks him, is like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go back to the Zenin clan? And he's like, well, if I do, will my sister be okay? And then Gojo's just like a really flat out sudden no. 100% no. And it's like, that was almost kind of scary. But it's like, it's obvious Gojo knows the Zenin clan and just knows that Megumi's sister would be just actively not in good hands if Megumi went to them. And so it's very clear that's what led to him training Megumi and kind of taking him on as a ward in a way. But we see how Suguru's mentality breaks, how he starts hating humanity because of what Toji did, because of what the Star Religious Group has done. And we see that he takes it over. He completely just begins murdering people without valid cause. He has a cause, but it's not a valid one. And in the end, Gojo has the opportunity to kill him. Let's be honest, he could have killed him right there. But he couldn't bring himself to do it because, I mean, it's his best friend. As much as he hates what he's become, it was still his best friend. It's hard for him, and that's valid. But unfortunately, his inaction has caused a lot of death. A lot more death than could be stopped, really. And it's honestly a tragic tale, what happened. Because you have two characters who turned into the complete opposite of each other. Suguru was extremely moralistic and believed in serving and saving humanity, while Gojo was more of the wild card who just did his own thing and was about it. It was in it for the attention, the power, the coolness factor, that kind of stuff. Who wasn't really in it for moral reasons. But this entire incident caused them to completely flip. Gojo saw the pain in humanity, saw the pain that can be caused, and realized that he, with the power that he has been blessed with, can help. That he can actually do something to help people. That, yeah, he is blessed with this amazing godlike power, but that he has responsibility to use it for the sake of others. It's the entire Uncle Ben thing. With great power comes great responsibility, and he understands that now. While Geto, on the other hand, completely flips in the opposite direction. This incident fuels a hatred for humanity in his heart, one that he's conflicted on at first, but chooses to abide with, one that he chooses to follow. And that hatred causes him to completely disvalue human life, seeing it as worthless when he can't get something out of it. So his goal is still to eradicate the entirety of humanity. And in doing so, creating a, in his eyes, utopian world. Which isn't like a new motivation for a villain to have. Like, we've seen villains who have had that kind of motivation before in various things. But the way it's done here is, again, very tragic, because he was literally the complete opposite of this before. He was someone who valued humanity greatly and had a strong moral compass. And seeing how this horrific, traumatizing incident caused him to flip like that it's sad. It's genuinely sad. And the worst part of it is we know where this goes. We know about the confrontation that happens in Jujutsu Kaisen 0. How he has the fight with Yuta and is eventually defeated. And we know how that he somehow comes back after that, even though he's thought to have died, and is now pulling the strings with everything going on in the current day. And so we know that his plan is still in action. He's going to try and capitalize on it. But we also see how different he is in the current day than he used to be. He's grown a lot colder. He's become a lot more just, how do I put it? Apathetic of everything around him, I guess you could say. Like, he just doesn't seem to care as much. Like, even by the end of this season, or this arc, rather, even seeing him like this, like, for example, the Star Religious Group meeting, where he kills the guy on stage and then, forcefully tells them, it's like, oh no, you're following me now, you don't get a choice. Even there, he seems like he still has more emotion than he currently does. He's just weirdly cold in the current day. And it's just, I feel like that happened after the events of Zero. After his last confrontation with Gojo, he shed the one thing that he was still holding on to. His last confrontation with Gojo allowed him to reject the last of his hang-ups and become a true monster. And it's a wild, wild change. But you see at the end, the ending scene of this arc, of this episode, when Gojo wakes up and he has that reaction with, his students, and he smiles and he's like, this is what I missed. This is what I loved about my time with Geto and Shoko and Utahime and all the others. This was his happiness that he had been like held back from all these years. Because even though he kept up a chipper attitude, even though he kept up being goofy and everything, you goddamn know that after Geto became evil and everything, you goddamn know that this depressed Gojo greatly. That his mood took a massive nosedive. Like, you have to understand how how badly this would have hurt him. Again, they were best friends. They were as thick as thieves. Even if they had different viewpoints on morality and all. So, seeing this massive change, seeing Geto become so vile and disgusting and evil, to the point where he killed his own parents, this entire village of people as well. It's like, you have to understand, like, as strong as Gojo is, he's not strong enough to not be traumatized by something like that. I 100% believe that Gojo was probably in a very strong depression after this happened. And I would probably say that through training and helping, in a way, raise Megumi, that's what helped him come back. And now seeing all three of his students laughing and joking and goofing around together, it brings him back to those memories. It brings him back to those good times. It warms his heart because it's comforting to him. But he's probably also maybe a little scared, if we're being honest. Because of, everything that happened before, he might be a little worried that could happen again. This friend group reflects his own. Yuji is very much the carefree, fun-loving guy like he was. Megumi is the more serious, moralistic one, like Geto. And while Nobara definitely has a lot more personality than Shoko did, they look alike. Like, you can't deny that. And honestly, we don't know exactly how strong Shoko is in terms of fighting and everything. But we can presume she can at least hold her own to some degree. But the point is, this trio reminds him of the trio he was a part of. This close-knit group of friends that fell apart. He's still on good terms with Shoko, but you can tell in the current day she's not the same as she was. She has 100% been hurt by this, just like Gojo has. She's not as chipper as she used to be. And she wasn't even that chipper to begin with, so that's saying something. His friend group just took a massive downfall. And that's why he's trying to raise this current trio the best he can to make sure that doesn't happen again. That's why he's trying to instill in them kindness and empathy, love, and morality. Because he doesn't want to see any of them falter in the way that Suguru did. He doesn't want to see any of them fall down a terrible path. And I genuinely think that he is scared of that happening. Again, as much of a front as he puts up, it is a front. His goofy, cocky, ridiculous, jokey attitude is him dealing with his pain. And that's a realistic thing. A lot of people deal with pain in that way. They make jokes, they goof around because it helps them feel better. And it's valid. Some people will try to say, oh, but that's not actually dealing with your problem. It's like, fuck you if you say that. Sometimes people, what they need is a laugh. What they need is some semblance of joy in their lives, and goofing around and having fun like this is how they get it. It helps them. It heals them. So to see this arc, as needless as I do believe it is, it does still shed light on Gojo's character in a notable way. I still think that they did not need like 5 episodes or whatever the equivalent in the manga was to tell this. I feel like this could have been explained in a lot shorter of a time. Like, it really did not need this much effort put into it. Um, but while it still felt needless, while it still felt like it was a lot to get through, even for being so few episodes, um, again, there was still some big stuff that came out of it, a lot of big setup that's going to obviously come into play in the future. Just some really, really great stuff. And I want to note something here, especially. While all the VAs in this have always been doing a great job, and the dub VAs, I love both the sub and the dub for this series, but I actually do still prefer the dub. The dub VAs always do a great job in this series. In this episode, very specifically, Kaiji Tang, the voice of Gojo, nailed it. Like, he just really nailed Gojo's reaction to finding out that Geto did what he did. He nailed the confrontation between the two. He nailed everything. Like, give this dude, like, all the props, all the credit, just everything for this performance. It's like, he is one of the biggest reasons I prefer the dub over the sub, even though both are great. For me, this is Gojo. It's just like, this is how I hear Gojo in my head and everything. And I've watched both pretty equally, because there's a lot of reactors that I've watched that specifically do the sub. But yeah, without question, Kaiji Tang is the voice of Gojo for me. It's just unquestionable at this point. And again, nothing against the Japanese voice. I think he does a great job too, but still. Yeah, this episode was just showing the tragedy of it all, the aftermath of everything that happened last time, and the downfall of Geto. It's clearly important, but again, I just feel like that you could have probably just condensed this into one episode, just Gojo just telling the gang what happened, instead of having this like 5 episode, and again, the equivalent of whatever it was in the manga. It could have just been a 1 episode like explanation, like, oh, it's time you knew about my past or something like that, and he explained it all to them. But I guess maybe they're not supposed to know, but then maybe he's like talking about it to someone else. You could have him like talking to Yaga about it. I just feel like it didn't need to be this long and drawn out. It's like everything could have been condensed into 1 episode and just like explained exactly everything that happened in a shorter amount of time. You could say there's more depth added this way. It goes further into it and shows more of it, so you get more of why this hurt Gojo so much. Which, sure, I'll agree with. But again, it's just like, there was a lot of it that I wouldn't say is filler or anything. By no means. Obviously, it's not filler, but I wouldn't say feels like filler. I would rather say I just felt bored and disinterested a lot of the time. And again, that might just be because of how invested I am in the current day stuff. Like, and the fact that this flashback stuff just came out of nowhere. Just like, oh, you go from current day stuff and all of a sudden you're in a flashback. Just no warning or anything. It's just like, I would at least have liked a little bit of warning, you know? maybe it's just that kind of stuff. Maybe it's because, again, I am so invested in the current day uh, things going on. But it's just, it. Stupid little bug. It just felt like it could have been at least handled maybe a little better. It, again, was not bad, and the content of this flashback arc and the depths that it did go into were good. I guess it's more down to the execution rather than the content of it itself. Um, I guess that's the only real way I can talk about it there. But either way, next episode we go into the meat of this season, which again, apparently the entire rest of the season is one arc, and it's I guess just a big one based on that. I don't know really much of anything to come. There's actually very little I know about for the future of this series. Um, in fact, I think there's only at least a handful of things that I might know that I've been spoiled on. And there's only two I can even think of off the top of my head. I'm not going to tell you what they are because I would consider them spoilers. And I don't know how many of you are anime only along with me, so. Um, One of them is not that big of a deal because it's obvious that it would happen, but the other one, I don't even know the context behind, so I would just basically be telling you, like, the very base level thing. But either way, I'm just not going to say anything, because I, again, don't know what you might be able to glean from it, and I just don't want to possibly spoil anyone who, again, might be anime only like myself. But, either way, once we get to that, eventually I'll tell you, oh, like, I knew this and everything, like I usually do. Tell me, though, in the comments, what did you think of this episode, and what did you think of this arc? I especially want to hear what you think of my thoughts, I guess, compared to your own on the necessity of this arc, and especially the way it was paced and whatnot and formatted. Let me know your thoughts on all of that and more in the comments below. But for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.